How are you feeling today?
Feelings?
Got to have some feeling,
Feelings
Dean.
are inconsequential, and you say that we're ready to go. I'm not ready to go because I have deep disquiet and feelings of deep disquiet. You mentioned feelings. I have catched or caught feels, which is ungrammatical.
Right.
And that's a completely wrong context to use that word. But then again, I am not a fait with the American patois, mes enfants. But the problem is, Pete, that I'm not happy with the name of the show.
Well, that's running theme for our show there, Dean.
So instead of Romaic Ruminations,
Yes.
I'm thinking Colonoscopic Commiserations. Now, you say to me, why commiserations? Because we commiserate, we show empathy about the state of who we are and where we're going. And that's a whole topic in itself. But colonoscopic, yeah. Oscopy, skopia, skopevo means to look. It's in perspective. And colonna, which a colonna obviously is a column.
Right.
Yes, I pronounce the M and the N. Yeah, just like kalimnios,
Oh,
column. Yeah. So, and it takes us back to Byzantine times with the stylites. And the stylites were not people that had amazing hair. The stylites were the stylites. They were the saints that would sit on top of pillars. This emerged in Syria.
Right.
And all of the people would go to them for wisdom, and they would live on top of these massive pillars. Now, most likely these pillars were remnants from ancient temples of the age. They're massive, vast ones, and you could live on top. And they'd build themselves a little hut, these stylites.
Right.
And they would live there exposed to the elements, and people would pass up food. And obviously they would defecate and do all their bodily functions in public because they were stylites, and that was the style of the time. And then people would go to them for advice. And they were a disruptive element. They would give people a piece of their mind. They would comment on the news of the day, and they were there. And
Stylites.
So you could be the column because you are of a lofty nature.
Lofty.
And I, who am closer to the ground than the heavens, would be the stylite. But together we would form this hybrid stylite thing where on top of our column, we would discuss things and commiserate with each other, hence colonoscopic commiserations. And of course, like all great things, this Christian tradition of the stylites, we have remnants of it even today. If you go to Syria, you can see the Saint Simeon the stylites column because it's part of it still left. But also the columns from the temple of the Olympian Zeus, which was never finished in Athens, that massive temple. If you have a look at some of the old photos, there's what looks like a hut structure on top of one of the columns.
Serious.
And people actually believe that a stylite may have lived there. People aren't sure, but that is a distinct possibility. So that's an interesting thing. And of course, stylites are not specifically Christian. They have their antecedents in the ancient world and the worship of the fish goddess Atargatis in Syria, who was half woman, half fish. And I suppose that qualifies her to be a mermaid. But she was the fish goddess, which is why fish was sacred in that area. Even in Orhei, in Edessa of Syria, there's a pool full of sacred fish, which the Muslims venerate, and that's a remnant from that time. But people, in order to venerate Atargatis, would climb these pillars, which were actually phallic symbols and symbols of fertility.
Wow.
So from column, stylos, to phallos, phallic symbol, which, the lingam in ancient India is also a phallic symbol of fertility. In Greece, we had the herms, which were stelae with an erect paraphernalia. And they were sacred to the god Hermes, and they were supposed to bring you good luck. And there was that great scene which Thucydides describes in the Chronicle of the Peloponnesian Wars, where someone went and damaged the herms and defaced the symbols of virility, and that was created a big stir in Athens at the time of the Peloponnesian Wars. So all of these things combine, for colonoscopic commiserations. We sit upon our pillars, phallic or otherwise, be my guest. It is the 21st century, and we pontificate about matters that have to do with our impending doom and ever-encroaching mortality. What say you? man who
I say that
handles all the technica on the show.
I say that every single time we do this show,
Yeah.
you weave a very, very good argument for your case, but I'm still not changing the name because it's just too much fuss out here changing the logo.
I love your sense of ambition, your energy, and
I'm too old for this now.
your expressed urgency for important reform.
But I really am entertained with just how much excess post colonoscopy you end up weaving into some of these stories.
You don't have to blow smoke up my colonoscopic commiserations, okay? It's okay, I get it. You don't like the name of the show, move on.
Move on. You're the one that doesn't like, you know what, let's just move on. Speaking of names of shows and looking at Greek words, we ended up getting World Greek Language Day recently, right?
Bugger that for a moment because I've just thought about something.
Okay, so we're going to park that.
Park that because
Fair
you
enough.
know Romaic Ruminations.
Yes.
And yesterday it being, can we put a date stamp on this show so people know?
Why not? Yeah.
Because there's always a time lapse between when we do the show and when we upload the show.
Yeah.
So today is the 12th of December, Eastern Standard Time. And yesterday was the 11th of December. It follows logically, which was the day that the Orthodox Church may or may not commemorate Saint Emperor Nikephoros Phokas. Who Nikephoros Phokas is a great Romaic figure coming from Byzantium, known for many things. One, having palace coups and killing his enemies. Number two, liberating Crete from the Saracens.
Wow.
Which he did because you may know this, but other people don't, because other people are mired in their own world where Nikephoros Phokas matters not a jot, but for him, for us, is very important. Crete was taken over by the Saracens and the Arabs, and a Cretan emirate was created on the island with its center at Khandax, which is Iraklio. That's where the word Khandaki comes from. Khandaki, a ditch, because they built fortifications around it.
Right.
That's where the word comes from. It's an Arabic word, Khandak. They were there for 100 years. In that time, entire Crete became Islamified.
Wow.
And then Nikephoros Phokas, the emperor, says, no, we need Crete. God knows why, but we do. And there were a few emperors before who tried to land on Crete, remove these people from there. It didn't work. He did. He was successful. And then there was this massive ethnic cleansing of Muslims. He had to bring people from elsewhere because the whole island had become Muslim. And it's amazing through periods of Crete how quickly there's something about Crete that lends itself to quick conversions. Because we had that with the Ottomans as well. Half the population became Muslim, just like in Cyprus. So there are a few parallels there. So he lands on the island, successful operations, and then either gets rid of everybody in the way that people did in the day, or force them to reconvert to Christianity and then bring people from the outside in order to create a Christian island again. So he was commemorated yesterday. But imagine now, if you will, that you are a prospective son-in-law of Nikephoros Phokas, and you've been called upon to wed his daughter or explore the possibility, and you're meeting him from the first time. Wouldn't that be meet the Phokas? It would be, which leads me to my next point, which is there is nothing new under the sun. Everyone reinvents the wheel. You know, Meet the Phokas back in the day, massive show, Robert De Niro, that other guy, what was his name? Ben Stiller. No, we had Meet the Phokas. It was the Arabs of Crete who met the Phokas. And how did that go, mes enfants? Well, we know their emirate was dissolved and Crete entered the Byzantine Empire once more. So Meet the Phokas, great Romaic hero. Why that qualifies him from sainthood, I don't know. But the ways of sainthood are brilliant in the Orthodox Church because some people are saints or not saints and they're in that liminal space. But apparently there's an icon of Nikephoros Phokas, saint, brackets, inverted commas, open quotes, close quotes, which will be venerated here in Melbourne.
Oh, really?
This weekend, yeah. So
this weekend?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, then.
So if you feel that you want to meet the Phokas,
yes,
you can do this.
I can do this.
Yep.
Right.
You were talking about Greek language.
Well, it's basically saying before you actually did a huge layup for what was a not bad joke.
I was being deadly serious. You hurt me. Why do you wound me, Pete?
It wouldn't be a show unless I took
I'm
a
trying
dig
to
at
be
you.
erudite.
World
And
language.
You trivialize the
World
utterings
Greek-
of my mouth.
World Greek Language Day, Dean.
World Greek Language Day. UNESCO.
Let me ask you.
World Greek Language Day. And as
UNESCO.
we know, because you're a fan of the show Westminster, Yes Minister,
Yes.
and now we're both showing our age. You know that bit, I can't remember which episode it is, where
Right.
they say to the general, this is the ambassador for UNESCO, and he says, oh, UNESCO, gallant little country. That's how it is. It's a state within a state.
Why is it important?
What, UNESCO?
No, don't worry about UNESCO. World Greek Language Day.
Seriously.
Yeah, why?
Okay, Pete, it's one of those things where it's like when your wife asks you why you love her.
Yes. Oh, God.
Yeah. See? Already there's shaking and the wailing and the gnashing of teeth.
Yes, very much so.
If you don't know, why do you have to ask?
I need to know.
You need to know. Why is the Greek language important?
No, that's not the question I asked.
What is the question? Why is World Language Day important?
Correct. World Greek Language Day.
Why do we need to have a day?
Why do we need to have one? Yes.
Because we need people to tell us that we are important. Now, we know we're important. It's that philosophical paradigm, if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one to see it or hear it, has it really fallen? Now, we know we're important, but if nobody else acknowledges the fact that we're important or that our language is important, is it really important? It's exactly the same syllogism, you see.
Syllogism.
It's important, Pete, for other people to acknowledge our inherent greatness.
Yes.
And how do you do this? You do that by forcing them to do that, by creating a UNESCO. And I mean, obviously, UNESCO is a world body affiliated with the United Nations. Greek Language Day. And then people say, oh, because UNESCO said it's important, it is. And we had a bit of an involvement in this, you and I, earlier in the year. Why is this? Yeah. And this is because, do you want to tell the story? Because I'm sick of hearing this on my own voice.
Yeah, I don't want to tell the story.
Well, then I will say the story. So there was originally a vote mes enfants a few months ago to create World Language Day, and
United Nations.
Yeah, and Greece sought the assistance of various countries, and one of the countries that did not sign up to supporting Greek Language Day was the fair country of Australia, from which we are broadcasting this show.
Right.
And certain questions were asked of Australia by, out of all of the 500,000 Greeks or so, there may be more, there may be less, depending on how you understand the census and everyone's own conception of their identity. Out of all the 500,000 Greeks and all of their organisations in Australia, only 2 entities took the Australian government to task and say why. And one of them was Professor Anastasios Stamis, who's known throughout the Greek community for promoting the Greek language through various of his organisations and through his university positions for many years. It's been dedicated to that. He asked questions. And the Australian Hellenic Council, of which we are proud, if somewhat not really energetic members.
Don't reveal all the secrets.
Well, you know what, we're among friends. We also wrote a couple of letters here and there, and we got the response that, well, it wasn't really an interesting response. It was something to the effect that they weren't told, or it was not time, or they didn't know. Or
the usual yes minister response.
But anyway, a couple of months later, they came to the party and supported it. And World Greek Language Day has been officially instituted for the 9th of February. Why the 9th of February? I think that's either the birthday or death day, I can't remember, of Dionysios Solomos, Greece's national poet, which for me is very poignant. And why is it poignant and puissant? Because Dionysios Solomos, at the time that he was writing the Greek national anthem, was an apodimos Elinas, just like us. He was a Greek living outside Greece. The Eptanesian Islands, the 7 islands, were held by England. He was more conversant in Italian than he was in Greek. He signed his name, his signature was in Italian, Solomos. And not only that, but the Greek national anthem is the only anthem in the world which is introduced by a quote from another language. So the Greek national anthem is actually introduced with an Italian quote.
That's an Italian quote?
Yeah. So, and it just shows how hybrid the Greek identity can be, how the Greek language can transverse borders,
Right.
and how versatile it is.
I had no idea about that.
And look at
But
the Greek alphabet. The Greek alphabet influenced the Coptic alphabet,
Yeah.
which is, apart from the addition of a couple of letters, the same. Cyrillic alphabet. You had a modified form of the Greek alphabet being used in India.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, during just after Alexander's time.
Bactrian.
By the Indo Greeks and their descendants. You can see that. The Roman alphabet came from the Greek alphabet, and ultimately all these came from Phoenicians. Although some people in the comments are now going to kill me for saying that. No, they didn't. We didn't originate ab initio, blah, blah, blah. It did.
Try a comment in there.
Okay. So from that point of view, the writing system of the language is important. Then you have this argument, which is the decolonization argument, which is, but the Greek language was used to bolster a sense of white superiority. And I'm here to tell you, well, that could possibly be true, but that's got nothing to do with us. Because Greeks wrote prolifically, thought prolifically, possibly too much, discussed, created bodies of literature. They were not doing it to achieve world domination. There was only one figure in Greek history that was into world domination. That was Alexander. Everyone else was not.
Yeah.
So they created massive bodies of literature which inspired people. In Rome, we said this, the upper class of Rome spoke Greek to each other.
They did, yes.
Yeah. They considered, even though they considered the Greeks to be effeminate generally, the Romans, and debased because they were not as masculine, martial as the Romans, they were in awe of their culture and they adopted that culture. So if there was any colonization or using the language for superiority, that's got nothing to do with us. And also, and this is what people that make that argument forget, that body of literature permeated East as well.
Right.
And possibly because we are living in the Western Hemisphere, living in the Occidentosphere, we don't have regard to what happens in the East. But let me tell you that the East, and especially Persia and Islam, was heavily permeated by Greek language, Greek thought. First of all, for the first 100 years when the Muslims took over Syria, they used Greek as the official language.
Right.
Very important. The caliphs in Baghdad were constantly writing to the Byzantine emperor saying, send us texts, send us scholars, send us philosophers, send us all the literature you've got in your language. And it was an article of diplomacy for the Byzantines. They were even sending these things to Cordoba in Spain, to the Islamic Emirate there. And these things, these texts highly influenced Islamic science, which was very advanced, and Islamic theology.
Yeah.
Took its own trajectory. So you have the left arm and the right arm being East and sort of West, influenced by texts and a body of literature and a corpus of thought which is being promulgated in the Greek language. So in my opinion, that is extremely important. Now, it is true that after the Enlightenment, certain Western countries used those texts as a way of promoting some sense of white superiority or European superiority. It's also true that they made a distinction between the modern Greek language and the ancient Greek language. Yeah. So the whole idea was that the modern Greek language is this debased form used by these debased people who have fallen racially and are impure racially, therefore their language is impure as well.
Right.
And that's what causes people it inculcates a sense of inferiority in modern Greeks. And that's why you have that katharevousa movement. Let's purify the language. Let's clean it of these accretions. And if we purify the language, maybe we ourselves will become pure and worthy of our ancestors, which I think is a terrible thing. And I think we wasted a lot of time.
Spanish did that though, didn't they?
The Spanish did what?
Try to purify their language after its Arabic influence. Arabs were there for a good 700 to 800 years.
They did more interesting things like get rid of people they didn't like. The Jews
They did that.
who ended up in Thessaloniki, a lot of them, the Sephardic Jews. And people do all these things. It never works.
No.
It never works. So that's a bit of a background. But my question is this. Which Greek language are we celebrating on Greek Language Day? Are we celebrating the ancient language, the medieval language?
Has it been defined, Dean? Has UNESCO defined it?
The modern language, which has emerged within our 200 years of freedom, or is it the entire corpus from the Mycenaean period and beyond? I don't know. And considering that the West makes a claim on the ancient Greek language and considers themselves custodians of that language, it would be interesting to find out, because the modern Greek language, though, has had two Nobel Prize winning authors winning the prize for writing in Greek, which is Seferis and Elitis, but nobody else. Greek literature, except for a few people, modern Greek literature, except for a few people like your Kazantzakis, your Elitis, your Seferis, aren't really read widely, except in a few Philhellenic circles throughout the Anglosphere. So what are we actually celebrating?
Just try looking it up.
You are trying to look things up.
I am.
This is great. ChatGPT is not to be relied upon.
Where I am.
It's not to be relied upon, Pete. It lies. I asked ChatGPT if I'm knowledgeable and beautiful.
And what has it told you?
It declined to respond. I'm still waiting. But that being so, Pete, our language is under threat in outside Greece.
Outside of Greece.
No, I wouldn't say it's under threat in Greece.
No.
People will argue that. They'll say the diminishing birth rate in Greece means that...
But World Greek Language Day is going to save it, though, right? That's the reason why we supported it. That's the reason why we wrote those letters.
No, we wrote those letters because we are of Greek extraction, and anything to do with us we just support instinctively.
Yes.
As members of a broader herd and tribe. It's the survival instinct.
Yeah.
Like when the hive is attacked and the bees come out stinging. This is what we do. We float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Yeah, as Socrates said. But in diasporic communities, that language is a threat.
Of course it is.
In Greece, it's not, because it's the natural habitat that's spoken. It's also spoken in areas around Greece, like in northern Epirus in Albania, although it's under threat there. There are a few issues with the teaching of the language there. It's spoken natively in a few diminishing communities in southern Italy with a different form of Greek, but that's dying. That's going the way of the dodo. Diasporic communities within Europe, although it's still pretty strong because they can go to and from Greece.
That's true.
It's dying and is almost dead in Turkey because of the diminishing Greek population there, and also the fact that Turkish is now their first language.
Yes.
So we've got America, the big powerhouse with a lot of Greeks, and the language is definitely dying there. They've been there a long time. They're assimilated linguistically.
Yes.
And we see how within 1 or 2 generations here in Australia we're losing the language.
Yeah.
So perhaps it is felt, and it's a plausible argument, that by celebrating and instituting World Greek Language Day, we can, I don't know, draw attention to the fact that this language is an important language, and we will do well to preserve it in the countries where we live rather than letting it go by the wayside. Is the Greek language under threat in Australia? The answer is probably yes. And we can offer statistics. We can say, for example, that there is an ever-diminishing number of students who take on Greek as a subject in VCE, which is your year 12 here in Victoria. It used to be in the thousands. Now it's in the very, very low hundreds. We can point to the fact that among people our age, and I won't reveal how old we are because a lady never reveals her age. True story, I went to do a will for an old lady in a hospital. She was dying earlier this year.
Right.
So one of the things that we do when we, as lawyers, when we're doing these wills is we need to gauge whether the person is lucid, whether they have capacity to make the will. So I said to her, Thea, poso chronon iste? One of the questions, how old are you? And she says to me in English, a gentleman never asks a lady her age. So definitely,
very lucid.
Definitely lucid in my book. Yeah, she was amazing. Theos Chorestin. She died a day later. And she was a fluent speaker of the Greek language. So there you go. That's one person taking the language with them to the grave. People our own age seldom speak Greek to each other in the daily course of conversation.
Yes.
In Australia, Greek is generally used to speak to ya and papu, and even then, not so much anymore. There are exceptions to that rule, but generally that's the case. So when a language is not spoken, when a language is not used, when people can't find a use for the language, then the language sort of diminishes. And then it becomes, I think, a fetish object, an article of worship, a totem pole. And we become stylites, sitting upon this, using this language as a prop to prop our identity, even though we don't use that language. And I think that's where we are now. Now, in times past, so you were about to get a word in, and I'm not going to let you.
Clearly not.
We had the Speak Greek in March campaign, which was
I remember that.
which was created by Sakis Zafiropoulos, a very important member of the Greek community, who said, we're going to devote the whole month of March because it's the month in which our national celebrations take place for the revolution. That whole month, if we can pledge to speak Greek to each other and only Greek, it'll be a great thing. Didn't work.
No.
He created that campaign. He ran it for many years. It fell by the wayside. People didn't take it up because it requires effort to speak a language that doesn't come naturally to you or which you don't want to speak.
Correct.
I was speaking to a scholar the other day who is going back to school to learn Greek. And I said, well, didn't your parents teach you? And he said, no, Mum, who's Greek, said, we're in Australia. I don't want to speak Greek.
Yeah.
I found that interesting. No, I come from the generation where our parents were saying that Greek is important and you must speak Greek, and it's a completely different world out there. So there's a lot of that, Pete. There's a lot of that. The thing that I feel, you asked me about feelings. What I feel is that there is a psychological element to speaking a language that we haven't really looked into in Australia. I don't know how it is in America because I'm not from there. And for example, there's something about the Anglosphere that makes you not want to speak or learn other languages.
It's true.
We know from scholarship that multilingualism, before the rise of the nation state and even after, is generally the norm.
Yes.
You see that in Aboriginal cultures here in Australia where they know at least, or they did know one or two languages, because after they leave their own tribal areas, if they're going somewhere where there's a different tribe, they need to be able to converse. So multilingualism is generally the norm, except in Anglo countries. Why? And what makes, and that's fine if you're a real Aussie, but if you are like us with your hybrid identity, what is it that makes you not want to speak your language? What is it that makes you not want to teach your children the language? And I saw this on a practical level, bringing up my own children, where all of my peers who had children the same age would not speak to their kids in Greek.
That's right.
And actually would feel intimidated or angry if you spoke Greek to your kids in their presence, because they felt that you were rubbing into them the fact that they were doing something wrong, or you were highlighting somehow that they're failures. But then the ultimate question is, well, why do you not choose to speak to your child in Greek? There are many reasons. One is because people feel that they will be excluded. And that happens. There's linguistic exclusion. I saw that with my own kids in kinder because they only spoke Greek. They were excluded by teachers and by students originally. Then there's the question of aspirations. You feel that you will not be accepted in social circles. And I've also seen that. And there's also something about how it reflects upon the way that you feel instinctively about your own tribe. So, for example, and I saw this with a person who translated a book from English to Greek the other day, who was telling me in that process of translation, this was a person born in Greece, came here, decided didn't want to speak Greek anymore.
Just decided that.
Said, I felt very bad about being Greek. I hated being Greek. I hated Greece. I hated the Greeks that I met here. I found them to be very retrogressive. I found them to be very old-fashioned. I found them to be very venal, and I didn't want to have anything to do with them. So I stopped being Greek, and I spoke in English, and I taught my kids only English. But now in translating this book and having my name on the cover, my Greekness has returned. Well, that's his business, but I'm talking about that psychological element. So when they tell me it's UNESCO World Language Day, I say great, and it's good. What has that got to do with us? I'll tell you what it's got to do with us. Considering all that psychological baggage that surrounds the Greek language, the fact we pay lip service to it but we don't speak the language, all of that. It reminds me of that poem by Kavafis, The Posidonians, where Kavafis, the great Alexandrine, and he was also a Greek abroad, writes about the Posidonians who lived in Paestum in southern Italy. They had a colony. They had been there a long time and they had forgotten how to speak Greek anymore. And the only thing that remained to them, says Kavafis, is festivals where they would say their Greek names and pull out their Greek paraphernalia, whether it's souvlakia, whether it's tomati that we sell at festivals, tokomboloi, tokomboschini, whatever they had at the time. I don't know what they had at the time. Probably didn't have tokomboschini, but you never know. Yeah. They'd pull out all these things, and they'd rip out a couple of Greek names, I don't know, souvlaki, tzatziki, whatever they had at the time, and they would sit there and celebrate their Greekness. And he says that these festivals always had a melancholy tone to them because they were focused on celebrating something that they knew they had lost or were losing.
Wow.
Now, with Kavafis, the rule of thumb is this: never take anything that he says literally.
Right.
Because Kavafis is the biggest piss taker that ever existed. And you can't be a poet piss taker unless you live outside Greece. Because as we know, Greeks living in Greece have no sense of irony. That's it.
This is true.
Watch the comments be absolutely irrelevant and non-committal here. But it's generally true. But the Greeks from outside, and Kavafis' first language was English. I think he lived in Birmingham, one of these places, for a while before he went to Egypt. He had that wry sense of irony. So everything he says you take with a grain of salt. So what he's saying is, yes, identity can be a celebration. We do that a lot. The Australian government especially wants us to celebrate everything, celebrate multiculturalism, celebrate the Greek community.
Absolutely.
Panigiri here, panigiri there.
Yes.
On any given weekend in Victoria, where we live in Melbourne, there is a panigiri.
Always. Whether
it is a panigiri for a parish or a panigiri for a silogo, an organisation, or a part of Greece, or we had the Dimitria for the Macedonis last weekend, there's always a celebration. And when we go to the celebration, in pure Kavafis style, we say a few token Greek words. We do our Greek dances.
Yes.
We display our Greek paraphernalia.
Absolutely.
We get our Greek on, as my friend and scholar Alexander Bilinis in America says. We get our Greek on.
Yes.
We eat our souvlaki. Yeah. And then we go home.
We do.
And that's exactly what Kavafis is discussing in that poem. Now, is he using that as a way of lambasting or to, if you like, condemn these fallen Greeks? My argument is no.
No?
My argument is that Kavafis is just saying, well, big bloody deal if you feel a sense of loss. Life goes on.
Yeah.
And that's the great thing about the Greek language. There were colonies all around the known world. The Greek, he says, "Την κοινήν ελληνικήν λαλιάν ως μες τη Βακτριανή την πήγαμεν ως τους Ινδούς." We took the Greek language to Bactria, to the Indians. And again, that's not grandstanding and being prideful.
No.
It's ironic because it went that far and now it's no longer there.
Yeah.
So what Kavafis is doing is he's talking about the ravages of time and circumstance. Now, we got the Greek language as far as India. It's no longer there. The Greek language was spoken in the Crimea. I think we've said before on the show that Crimea was the Principate of San Theodoro in Crimea was the last independent Greek-speaking place to fall to the Ottomans. Wasn't Mani, it wasn't Constantinople, it wasn't Trapezunda, it was the Crimea. It's no longer spoken there, especially now after the war in the Ukraine. They're all gone and all that. No, we celebrated recently 1,700 years of the Nicene Creed.
Yes.
Well, one of the cities called Nicaea is Nice. In the south of France, which is nice. And Greek is no longer spoken there.
No.
You know, Marseille was a Greek colony.
Was, yes.
There were Greek colonies in Spain, no longer. In Libya, in Egypt, Greek is no longer spoken in any of those places.
Yeah.
But guess what? The Greek language, on the whole, has survived. And that's what Kavafis is saying. It doesn't matter if you have a loss here or if you have a loss there. If the language is lost in Australia, if the language is lost in America or Canada or wherever, ultimately there is something about that, these people and that thread, which means they will survive. They will, μπορεί να μαζεύονται, μπορεί να συνοικουνωθούν, but they'll always come back. I think that's what he's arguing there.
Are you still Greek if you can't speak it?
Okay, that's an interesting question. My argument is you possibly are, but it's not sustainable in the long term. If you can't speak Greek, but you have access to a Greek community or you visit Greece and you feel Greek, that's okay. Chances are that you can probably understand the language, but you're not fluent or you're not confident, because there's also that Anglo-Saxonic thing that there's this hysteria in your head, this fear of speaking in the wrong way, which stops you from speaking Greek. That happens. Whereas you contrast us when we try and speak Greek and we have that hysteria, I'm going to get it wrong, to our parents or grandparents who came to this country and spoke broken English and didn't care. And they were not embarrassed if they were using the wrong grammar or the wrong words, because for them, the language was just a tool to get the job done.
Yeah.
For us, it's not a tool to get the job done. It creates it's a whole guilt trip in itself, which stops people from speaking the language or even trying to. That's why I'm saying about the psychological effects of the language. If you're a person who can't speak Greek, you've got access to Greek culture, you understand a bit, yeah, I can understand why you feel Greek, but I don't think you can pass that on down the generations.
I don't think you can either.
I don't think, because you then cut off linguistically from the way that culture is mediated.
I feel my own personality changing. I feel the way I relate to the world, the way I relate to somebody else, even when you and I talk, if I switch to Greek, then my thought process almost changes with it.
Okay.
So I think that a lot of who you are is linked to the language, probably a lot more than I first thought. And I think that if you don't know how to speak the language, you can adopt whatever identity you want. I can't tell you that you are not Greek because you don't speak the language. What I'm saying is that when I don't speak Greek, then I feel far less Greek, and not just because I'm not saying the words, but my perspective and the way I relate to somebody else changes with me switching the language.
Look, it's personal. If you don't speak the language, you can't experience what you've just described.
Right.
My point's not that. My point is that because you don't speak the language, you don't have access to the way the culture is being lived and changing.
Yes.
You may be, and you may qualify that. You may enter into a subset of being Greek. You may be part of the Greek community of Melbourne. Now, there are people of non-Greek descent who actively take part in the Greek community of Melbourne's activities, little c, not big C as in the organisation, but generally what we do. There's a lot of Philhellenes, who come to our events, take part, contribute to the Greek community, and I see them as part of our community. I don't see them as Ixeni, the strangers, the foreigners. They're part of us.
Yeah.
But are they Greek? No. And if you ask them, do you feel Greek? They'll say no.
Yeah.
Okay? What a person feels is their business. You can't define
Absolutely.
them. But I still think it can't be translated down the generations.
Yeah.
You know, you need to have at least one generation with an access to the language, even if they can't speak it properly, to mediate the culture. If you don't have that, then you've got issues. But leading on to that, you know what we've got? We've got actually people in our community here in Melbourne who are non-Greek, who learnt Greek and are fluent Greek speakers. You take your Paddy Montgomery, who's one of the most talented musicians I have ever met, who is so versatile, can pick up any Greek instrument and play traditional Greek music of all styles, Epirotica, Kritika, Konstantinopolitiki, Lira. He's amazing. I've had the honour to play with him and learn from him. And he speaks fluent Greek. If I speak to him in English, he'll respond in Greek.
Serious?
Yeah. Then you have Wayne Simmons, who was a teacher, learnt Greek. He's a stalwart of the rebetiko scene. If I can't master a song, Wayne will get a call. Wayne, I need help. Can you notate this for me?
Right.
And actually, φίλε, κανένα πρόβλημα. There's Wayne speaking to me in Greek. And I'll tell the story of once I was in South Melbourne. I was having lunch with a friend, and we're speaking in Greek, and this elderly lady with distinctive Anglo-Saxon features turns around and says to us from the next table, "Καλή όρεξη, παιδιά." I'm just looking at her, I said, "Okay, come on. What's the story? What's behind all this?" And she says, "I grew up in South Melbourne at a time when all the Greek migrants were arriving. All of my neighbours were Greek. All of my friends were Greek. And on Saturdays, they would vanish and I'd have no one to play with. Where were they? They were at Greek school. So I decided I wanted to go to Greek school because I wanted to be with my friends."
Wow.
So this lady learnt Greek and she became part of our community.
There you go.
Now, does she feel Greek? No, but she definitely feels part of our community.
There you go.
And I think that's great. That's a fantastic thing. These kind of people we never look into. And these are the people that we should be celebrating on Greek Language Day. People that have come in, that have made the choice to speak Greek. And then there's people who have picked up Greek along the way. Half of the Assyrians who live in Melbourne speak Greek because they learnt it because Greece was the waypoint.
Yeah.
Leaving Iraq, they arrived in Greece. Most of them stayed between 6 months to 2 years, picked up the language, came here. Now, these people love musicians like Nikos Vertis.
Yes.
Which, oh God. Anyway, fantastic. Να είναι καλά ο άνθρωπος. Pandelis Pandelidis.
Yes.
Yeah. You go to Assyrian functions and you hear Charis Alexiou, apόψε θέλω να πιω. You're like, guys, no. But they like it and they speak Greek and they love the culture and they love the language.
Yes.
And for them, Greece equals freedom. And I tell them, why do you love us so much? And they say, because Greece is the first country in which we felt free.
Yes.
As a persecuted minority where they came from. Maybe we should celebrate their Greek language use. Now, that's never passed on to the next generation.
No.
Their kids don't speak Greek.
No.
That's part of their life story.
Yeah.
But we celebrate it as long as we've got it. So it's not... And I feel what Isocrates said back in the day, which is, and remember we had that discussion in previous programs. Look up the previous programs, Mes Enfants. They're really good. They're full of history and information about Favorinus. And there was that idea of what makes a Greek, and does being involved in Greek things and speaking Greek make you just as Greek as anyone else? You know, Έλληνας είναι αυτός που έχει ελληνική παιδεία, who is brought up as a Greek. And it's a perennial question because we ignore those people. We are so focused on loss.
Yes.
And the fact that so many people of Greek descent don't speak Greek anymore, that we forget to encourage and nurture the ones that do.
Yes.
Whether they are of Greek descent or not. There's people in this community who are Albanian who speak Greek. There's all sorts of people. I go to my local fruit shop, which is owned by an Indian guy, and he speaks to the old ladies in Greek because he lived in Greece for a while. And generally he's telling the old ladies to put the fruit down, not to handle it, because the fruit's not really that good. If you're watching this, lift your game. Telos πάντων. But that's what they do. There are all sorts of people who speak Greek. There's people that marry into Greek families and learn Greek. Yeah? What about them? We ignore them because we have this weird thing about alos, which Kavafis makes fun of. We're losing, this hysteria about losing, and then that creates a snowball effect where there's even more loss. Coupled with this idea of celebrating failure. So let's celebrate Greek Language Day even though the Greek language is in decline. Coupled with the fact that we ignore all the good things that are happening about the Greek language.
Right.
Yeah, people, I mean, the mixed marriages, oh my God, pirexeni, or the mixed marriages that happen within our community.
Yes.
Which result in people, obviously linguistic challenges, but which result in people whose parents or one parent may not be Greek, learning Greek by conviction. And we don't celebrate that enough.
No.
And I think maybe we should on Greek Language Day. Now, I'm not averse to the panigiri. I love panigiria. So if we're going to have a panigiri on Greek Language Day, which I think we are, and they're being planned, I think there's a committee in our community which wants to celebrate the Greek language. In Feb.
Oh, for the love of Christ, man.
Christ spoke Greek. No, but he did. It's in the Bible. There's a scene where he's there and he starts speaking to the Greeks who had come to listen to him at the feast. So Christ spoke Greek.
Multilingual.
He was multilingual, but most people were in the time. And if it's good enough for him, it should be good enough for us. Don't you agree?
I agree.
Well, there you go.
I think so. They're good enough for many Greeks living in Siberia.
Siberia, so that's So there's a monument to Greeks who were purged by Stalin in Magadan in Siberia, actually, because there are a lot of them who ended up in the gulags.
Yeah, no, this is during, what do you call it? What do they call it?
I think that we should have a rule where we do not do an episode without discussing Stalin. We have this?
It certainly seems this way.
Yeah.
You have a huge fascination with him.
Oh, no, he's just
which you've also passed on to your kids, from what I know.
Do I tell the story? I don't want to tell the story. It's okay.
But
I'm just fascinated by him. He's a grotesque but interesting figure.
Yeah. There was a time, though, where he was. We already discussed how the Russians came up with their own alphabet for the Greeks as well.
Yeah.
And then we talked about books that were written in this particular alphabet.
But the Greeks in Siberia predate Stalin, obviously.
Yes, of course.
So from the 16th century, Greeks start moving to Siberia. Why? The same reason why Greeks go anywhere, in search of opportunity, land, Efkerias. And this is the time when the Russian Empire is expanding and they're starting to make inroads into these lands which were untouched and inhabited either by Mongol subgroups or native tribes or whatever. And there's fur, there's timber, there are resources. And the Ottoman Empire has taken over the Greek world. Greeks are leaving in droves, and one of the easiest places to go and live in is Russia because same religion.
Yes.
Yeah, they don't make demands. You don't have to convert. So a lot of them are in Moscow, and they attach themselves to the military, including one, Yuri Trapezunsky, who would have been one of your compatriots, a Pondian from Trapezunda.
Wow.
Yorgos Trapezundios, you know? And Yurikas, as I affectionately like to call him, is in the army. And what happens is at that time, the aristocratic factions in Moscow, the Russian ones, they hate each other. They're vying for influence. It's like the Greek community here where, you know, you have one community boyar hating the other Greek community boyar, trying to exclude him from functions, making sure that, he doesn't get invited to this event, telling the Greek proxenor that this guy's no good and he's undermining the Greek state, so he doesn't get an invite to the cocktail party, and then boo-hoo, boo-hoo, and all of that. Yeah. And then they come crying to us and we laugh. And then we don't get invited to the cocktail party because we don't take them seriously. And actually, we'll have our own. Thank you very much. All of this happens, and people like Yuri Trapezunsky are helping their patrons, who they're attached to become ascendant. And what Yuri does is he's involved with one clan who hates another clan.
Right.
And in order to defame the enemy clan, he gets together a petition.
Okay.
And what he does is he gets the letterhead of the Tsar. I don't know how he got that. And he, with all of the Tsar's titles, Emperor of this, King of that, Tsar of the Blue Horizons and all of that, doesn't write anything in the petition, just gets signatures from the people in his regiment.
Right.
And they don't know what they're signing. And he forges a lot of the signatures of some of the important people as well. And then after he gets that, he writes there, a petition to remove so-and-so Russian boyar who's not taking the proxenor seriously and shouldn't get invited to the cocktail party, or words to that effect. Yeah?
Yeah.
And then delivers it to the Tsar, and then there's an investigation, and the Tsar says, oh, you know what? No, this is no good. You've been a bad boy. Off to exile you go. Notwithstanding the fact that his master, the Russian aristocrat, has put him up to it, he is Yuri Trapezunsky, he is Yurika the Pondian, he has no one to defend him, so off he goes into the wilds of Siberia, ends up in Omsk, which is the sound that we make when our throat hurts, especially now with the Melbourne weather where one day is winter, one day summer, and no one knows what to do. It is crazy, it is ridiculous, and the government is to blame, and Greek Language Day, but... He ends up in Siberia helping the governor of Omsk, and he's saying, this is great. I love this place. I can deal in furs. I can deal in wood. I can trade with the native inhabitants. I can make massive amounts of money, which he does. And he helps the governor do, and he basically is starting to govern Omsk for the governor while he sits there and enjoys the good life and drinks vodka. Problem is that a lot of this money is going into these people's pockets and not going to developing the area, and there's famine. And the peasants never, ever, ever overlook the peasants. From the peasants' revolt in England to now, peasants are important. Yeah, okay, peasants, look after yourselves. So they revolt, and then he switches sides. They revolt against his corruption and the governor's corruption.
Yeah.
So Yuri says, look, I'm on your side. Don't look at him, he's bad, but send me to Moscow, even though he's been exiled to Omsk, and I will be your spokesman to the Tsar.
So Greek. This is so Greek.
And send me all your money and your furs so we can give gifts to the Tsar so that we can buy his good graces. Because you know that whether it is a Tsar or a high-ranking bishop, you must produce coin if you are to gain their favor. That is the way of the world, mes enfants. Unless you are Nikiforos Fokas, in which case you have to be a cretin. But what you do... He goes off, meets the Tsar. Yeah. Oh, what the hell are you doing here? I thought I exiled you. Yeah. Here are some furs. Here is some gold. Okay. And then you get to keep the rest. And then all of a sudden, okay, what's this petition? And what are these peasants revolting about? Oh, don't worry about them. They're horrible people. I can sort them out. Send me back with an army, and I will regain Omsk for you. So the Tsar says, fantastic, thank you so much. So he sends him with new powers and the order to suppress the revolt. He does. He does this. Yuri Trapezunsky. In the meantime, he's brought some other Greeks back with him who were in Moscow, who he knew from his thing. Yeah. And they establish themselves in Omsk. Yeah. And they make a lot of money. And they suppress the revolt. And they perpetuate this venal, corrupt system until they vanish from the historical record.
Wow.
But for me, it's amazing.
Which year?
We're talking about the 1600s.
1600s.
Yeah.
Okay, then.
And they facilitate, because obviously Greeks here, and Greeks are always in search of an opportunity. And when
of course.
Yermolov and all these other generals are pushing into Siberia, there are Greeks in the army and there are Greek traders following in their wake. Wow. They're never in massive numbers, but they are enough that they belong in the historical record. I found that this through trawling the Russian sources.
Wow.
Yeah, because you can't really find information about this in Greek or in English.
Wow.
And then obviously what happens is, because Siberia is a place of exile, your hapless Greeks who fall foul of the government end up there during the imperial times, but also during the Bolshevik times when Stalin creates the Gulag archipelago, and especially Greeks who are party members, who are purged during the great purges of Stalin. A lot of them end up in the gulags, unfortunately. The ones that aren't deported, like the Pondians who got deported to Kazakhstan, that's a different...
Yeah.
Or Uzbekistan, different kettle of fish, but party functionaries were deported to Siberia, and most of them did not survive.
Yeah.
And we know a little bit about what happened to those people, because there was a Cypriot who went to the Ukraine and became a communist and would advise the Greeks of the Ukraine, who were Pondians, who were running newspapers, and there was that debate which language we have the newspaper in, Pondian, Katharevousa, or modern Greek. And he would both advise those people and rat on them to Stalin or whoever his immediate superior was, and they all were purged and ended up in Siberia. He ended up leaving and migrating to Australia, and he died in Adelaide.
Gee.
Yeah. And we have his letters.
Wow.
Which is why we know so much about how Greek newspapers were organised in Ukraine during Bolsheviks' time, because he was there. Yeah, so amazing. The Australian,
that'd be a very
if you like, connection. So yeah, Greeks in Siberia. But yeah, if you go to Magadan, which no one will go to because it's the end of the earth, there is a monument there to the Greeks who perished in Siberia during the purges, but not to Yuri Trapezunsky, who I think all Pondians should idolize.
Yeah.
And this is the problem with Pondians. Is that it's too much Gemenger, it's too much Kotsari and Tik. You know my story about the Tik, yeah? I once asked a doyen of Pondian dance, I said, εσύ ρε φίλε που ξέρεις τα πάντα για το ποντιακό χορό, θέλω να με μάθεις να χορεύω το νευρικό Tik, the nervous Tik. Yeah? And immediately, he did not even bat a Pondian eyelid. He started executing dance moves.
Of course he did.
And I said, nevriko tik, nervous tick. It's a joke. But then again, he was from Greece. Greeks have no sense of irony.
Correct.
But he could not admit that, he didn't know what a nevriko tick was.
Still in the dark, isn't he?
Yes. And he had to show that he knew something. It's the emperor's new clothes.
Yes,
or the emperor's nervous tick, if you like. But there's too much tik, there's too much kotsari, there's too much gemenger, and there is this vast... I won't repeat the way that I did that again because I don't think I can. That's a once-off. It's apax legomenon, as they say in ancient Greek. Chasm of knowledge and brilliance of the Pondian people, things that they've done throughout history, which deserves to be explored, celebrated maybe on Greek Language Day. How about this? Pondian Language Day.
Here we go.
Can't we have that?
We couldn't get
9th of February, Greek Language Day.
It took us forever to get Australia to support Greek Language Day.
Pondian Language Day.
What hope did we have there for that
one? Is Pondian a separate language?
Let's not get into that one.
Well, you know what? People say, what is the difference between a dialect and a language? A language has an army.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like when I did research on what's the difference between the different languages within the former Yugoslav Republic.
Yeah.
And
none.
It's all political.
Absolutely.
Right. Speaking of political, something extraordinary happened recently, and you've already alluded to it. To it earlier. And
eluded or alluded? I will now try and elude rather than allude.
You alluded to it earlier.
Okay, let's go. What is it?
It was the Pope meeting up with the Patriarch.
The Pope Meister, or Papas. Τον Πάπα να καταράστε διότι αυτός είναι αιτία του κακού. Said Άγιος Κοσμάς ο Αιτωλός. Curse the Pope for he is the source of all evil.
So we all know about, well...
So you all know how I feel about the subject, mes enfants.
We all know about the great schism that occurred between the church.
The only Pope I acknowledge, ο μόνος Πάπας που για μένα είναι καλός, is Papa Giuseppe. You know, the pizzas, the frozen pizzas.
For the love of Christ.
Well, that's what we're all here for, Pete.
So with regards to the great schism,
Papa, yes.
We've had the Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church at odds.
No, depending on where you come from, because if you come from Northcote, it's the Orthodox Church. Please continue.
At odds with regards to...
At odds?
The Nicene Creed,
the heretics, right? The schismatics.
That's right.
The source of all evil.
So my question is this. I know there's been attempts now for decades to bring both churches together. There's been a number of meetings that Patriarch and popes have basically had.
Yes.
This year they celebrated 1,700 years since the Nicene Creed.
Isn't that nice?
And my question, of course, is first, let's go. I want to understand the significance of the Nicene Creed, why it's so important to both churches.
Okay. Do you remember Rocky and Apollo Creed? That's it. Creed, man. Okay, you want to understand the significance of the creed?
Yes.
Let's leave the creed to one side. I have a problem, Panayotate, with what you're doing. And I'll tell you what this is. There's this whole idea that you're discussing with the Pope or the man who says he's the Pope there, Leo, that you want to celebrate Christmas and Easter on the same day as the Catholics.
Yes.
You are going to stuff up Christmas for every single mixed marriage out there, especially people married to Catholics.
You mean Easter?
Why is this so? No, Easter. Oh, yeah, Easter and Christmas. Some people buy millions, but mostly Easter. They want to celebrate on the same day.
Yes.
Why? Sambos θα κάνουμε μαζί barbecue. We are not. Now there's a lovely equilibrium. The Catholic Easter is generally before Greek Easter.
Yes.
So if you're married to a Catholic, you go to your Pethera's house and you have a Catholic festival. Yeah.
Yes.
Tutti a tavola mangiare. Yeah. And then a week later, or how many weeks later, you go to your mum's house.
Yeah.
And that way, your Catholic wife can't say to you, "Oh, why are we going there for? And we always go to your mum. And what about my mum?" And there are massive fights. Yeah.
Yes.
And then the mothers get involved. Άμα ήσουν άντρας θα πατούσες πόδι.
Yes.
And all that stuff. Oh, yeah, but your sister doesn't go to your mum, so why do you have to go to your mum's and blah, 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 blah. And she goes to your mum's instead of following her husband, and you do this and you do that. All that because of the schism. And God works in wonderful ways. God, I possibly believe, may have created the schism so that people that marry Catholics can celebrate 2 Easters in familial harmony.
Of course.
You get rid of that, and everyone celebrates on the same day. What the hell are you going to do when you say we're going to have Easter at mum's? No, we're not. We're going to have Easter at my mum.
Chaos will reign.
Chaos? Families will be destroyed. Souvles will be upturned. You want to go and have Easter on the same day. What are you thinking? Where's the pastoral care? No.
We did it for Christmas.
That's what I mean. Mia σου και μία μου. At least Easter is preserved. Even Christmas I don't agree with, because you know we used to celebrate on the 6th με το παλιό ημερολόγιο.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why τα κάλαντα αρχή μηνιά, αρχή χρονιά, πρώτη γιορτή του χρόνου. Yeah? Χριστούγεννα.
Yeah.
You know? Που μπαίνει ο μήνας του Χριστού του Αγίου Βασιλείου. Was always celebrated in January. Meletios Metaxakis, the patriarch, in the early part of the 20th century, changes the calendar. Chaos, no.
Back in the 20s, right? 1920s?
Yeah. So now we want to do this. The great thing about the Orthodox Church is if it's not right, it never lasts. Okay. So our Venerable Father, the Patriarch, I think he's got a lot of goodwill, but he hasn't lived outside of, in the Diasporικές κοινότητες, to understand why it is important to maintain that family harmony on these days by keeping the calendar separate. That aside...
Yes.
That aside, because obviously theology is a lot deeper than where you're going to have a suvla. Nicene Creed is the basis of the Christian religion because it teaches you what Christians actually believe. That's what starts. I believe in one. Πιστεύω εις ένα Θεό, Πατέρα Παντοκράτορα, and all of that. I believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth and all things visible and invisible. It is, if someone says to you, well, as a Christian, what do you believe? Here it is, and you can recite it. And
but historically, though, Dean, this is time where it was Constantine the Great. They got a whole bunch of bishops that were all warring with each other. Too nice here.
Funny about that, because bishops are peaceful people.
To actually sit down and nut out a creed they can all agree to.
Yeah, because everyone had their own version
of Christianity.
Right? And he said, no. I mean, he was a Roman emperor. Romans were all about standardization.
Yes.
I was like, what do we actually believe in? Yeah. And there was Arius who believed that the Son was not as important as the Father. And there were other groups and the rest of it. So I said, no. Sit there and nut it out. And he thought that he could do a deal. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. It's going to be Christianity 1.02. And obviously, a lot of things happened after Nicaea. Bishops didn't agree. Arius was anathematized. St. Nicholas may or may not have smacked him a couple of times in the face because he got angry. And it didn't resolve much, but it did form the basis of our church, Western and Eastern.
Correct.
Sometime, or many, many centuries afterwards, the West, and it began in Spain, inserted this idea, because in the Creed it says that the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because of all of the Arian controversies where Arius, the theologian from Alexandria, was saying that the Father and the Son, the Father is not the same as the Son and the Son is lower, one of the bishops in Spain decided to say that the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father and the Son.
Right.
And over a very, very long time, that became the standard in the West. And the Greeks said, well, there's no precedent for this. Our reading of the Bible and our theologians says that this is actually wrong for many reasons. It's very important that we all believe the right thing, because if we don't believe the right thing, then what are we teaching people? There was controversy. And then you had that in the 1000s, where there was a bit of a fight between Liutprand, who was the papal legate in Constantinople, who anathematized the Greek church, and there was a schism, and slowly the churches stopped speaking to each other and drifted apart. And where they were one, they considered themselves heretical. There were always tensions. For example, when you have the emperor in Constantinople and the pope in Rome, and the pope saying, no, I am the complete head of the church and I control everything, and whatever I say goes, that is a problem for the other ancient patriarchates. Constantinople, which was came later, but Antioch, Alexandria, and later on Jerusalem. So the Orthodox Church up until now has been collegial. There's the idea that everyone gets together and determines things, whereas the Catholics instituted this thing that when the Pope speaks ex cathedra from the throne on doctrinal matters, he is infallible, papal infallibility.
Yeah.
And they introduced amendments and different things. There was a controversy about how we use leavened bread, which rises for our communion. They use azimopsomi. It's not. It doesn't rise. It's a wafer. Things that most people think are trivial, but exercise the brains of theologians. And we've been separate. And when you're separate, you begin to not to see each other as brothers, which is why in 1204 it was easy for certain groups to, especially at the instigation of the Venetians, come and conquer Constantinople.
Fourth Crusade.
Yeah, which they held for about 60 years and installed a Latin patriarch on the throne.
Decimated the city.
Considered us heretics. And they did that also in the Holy Land when the Crusaders came. You know, they instituted their own Latin patriarchs, even though there were patriarchs there, treated the Orthodox as second-class citizens. They did that on Cyprus. They did that in Crete. They did that in the Peloponnese, when they held a lot of that area as well. And there are very sore memories that Greeks have as a result. Yeah? They also got rid of all of the Orthodox monasteries and churches in southern Italy. Although some of them, like Grotta Ferrata, which is a great monastery, the Basilian monks there still perform the liturgy in Greek.
Okay, then.
But they and it's the Byzantine rite, but they acknowledge the Pope. Then they created Unia, the Uniate rite, which is keep your Orthodox traditions, but just acknowledge the Pope as the head of the church. And that was very popular in the Ukraine and in parts of Eastern Europe, and a little bit in Antioch, not much. So that happened, and there's bad blood. Coupled with the fact that within the Orthodox Church, there are fractures and fault lines at the moment. And the greatest fracture and fault line is between the church in Constantinople and the Church of Moscow over the creation of the Ukrainian church.
Yeah, they gave them autocephaly?
Yeah, they did. And the argument is, well, should they have done that? Did they have the right to do that? Moscow says no. Constantinople says yes. Whether you agree or you disagree, the fact is that Moscow now refuses to commemorate the ecumenical patriarch, and they don't talk to us.
Right.
Us being Constantinople, because here we are under the Patriarchate of Constantinople. And certain Slavic churches support Russia, and Orthodoxy is divided, sadly, not for doctrinal reasons, but for procedural. Now, that's happened before many times. We weren't talking to the Moscow church during communism. They weren't talking to us. There are churches in America, for example, the Autocephalous Church of America, which was created because they wanted their own to rule themselves, which the Patriarch Constantinople doesn't recognize and other people don't. And there's all this stuff. But we are a house divided. So the whole idea is people are in hysterics because the Pope went to Constantinople.
Yes.
And the Pope recited the Creed. And he left out the Filioque, the and the Son. The Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father and the Son. He left that out as a gesture of goodwill to the Orthodox. Everyone said, oh my God, we're going under the Catholics and the Patriarch is a heretic. And the Catholics themselves are saying the Pope has given away too much and they must submit to the Pope. And it was just a goodwill visit so that people can focus on the things that we've got in common.
Yes.
At a time when Christianity around the world is considered, especially in the West, a problem or doesn't have the cachet that it does, these leaders are getting together and saying, let's emphasize on what we've got in common, let's create ties of goodwill, and hopefully that will lead to union. Now, a lot of Orthodox people are against union, but we pray for union, and it says in the Creed, and I believe in one Orthodox and Catholic church.
Right.
No, one apostolic and Catholic church. Sorry, what am I thinking? So it is an imperative to seek union. Obviously, all of the theological problems have to be worked out, and you don't just do it willy-nilly and paper over the cracks. But there is an imperative there, if you are a Christian, to seek unity, and that's all they're doing. And I don't see why that's a bad thing, and I don't see why we have to be worried. Now, people point to possible canonic violations of the church canons, which say that you can't pray with heretics, and if you do pray with heretics, you need to be defrocked and things like that. And I think that's a bit extreme. And that's because he stood up and they prayed for him, and also he was wearing his robes and he recited the creed. But for me, that's a very minor point. You get a different perspective when you speak to Christians from the Middle East, Pete. Because Christians from the Middle East, I speak to people from Syria or Iraq, they have got no time for theological niceties and differences because they are all persecuted.
They are.
And they say we're all Christians, and if we're sitting there fighting with each other, we lose everything.
Yes.
We don't have the luxury where we come from to fight. They visit each other's churches, they help each other, they intermarry, they this and that, and we don't sit there arguing over whether the Father proceeds, the Holy Spirit proceeds, because we can't have that luxury. Because they're killing us, they're destroying our churches, our women get targeted, all of that stuff. That's a different perspective. I don't see anything wrong with what the Patriarch did, really, in welcoming a world leader, because he's a world leader.
Yes.
He's not saying that there are theological differences. He's saying that we need to establish a good relationship as a basis to be able to slowly work those things out, if and when they can be worked out. There's nothing wrong with that. But I also fervently believe that we've got to get our house in order and that we need to re-establish Orthodox unity within our own house. That's very hard.
Well, especially given that we seem to have a foot in both hemispheres.
Well, yes, and it's hard because Catholicism is united under the Pope. Our system of governance lends itself to people going one way or the other because the Patriarch is a symbolic first among equals, but all the patriarchs are bishops. They rank the same. He's just venerated because of Constantinople's place in the development of Orthodoxy. But you want to be together to be able to together engage in meaningful dialogue with everybody else. So hopefully they can work that out. How, when, what? It's a difficult question because it's just a mess what's happening, especially in the Ukraine and people may have the best of intentions, but things go wrong, as we see. But you know what? Hopefully, it'll all work out. So much for the Nicene Creed.
So much for the Nicene Creed. Well, it's not going to interrupt your Christmas celebrations, though.
The Nicene Creed, it never does. No. My Christmas celebrations will be very Christmassy.
Oh, yes.
So what we like to do is I take the kids and we visit nursing homes, and we sing traditional Greek Christmas carols the people. So they bringing Christmas to people who deserve it, who have worked, who have done so much for us, giving a bit back. Mm-hmm. We're not very big on presents, Pete.
No.
And I discovered that my kids can't process presents.
Now, this you have to actually
No. It's an interesting thing because my parents especially had this idea, we'll get them a lot of presents.
Yeah.
And they'll enjoy unwrapping them.
Yes.
And what I discovered was that after the first or second present, my kids lost interest and would just leave them there.
Unwrapped,
because it's like, all right, how many of these things am I going to have now?
Sorry.
Because what I do...
Unwrapped.
Yeah, unwrapped. Like,
so wrapped.
Yeah,
still wrapped.
Because I've taught my kids not to want anything because it saves me from spending money on them. It's very zen in our house.
We need a whole episode dedicated to that because I think there'd be many parents who want to know the secret
And then
that.
what we do, mes enfants, and try this at home if you feel, is like we get all the crappy presents from people who feel obliged to give my kids presents because of family or friendship ties.
Of course, yes. Yeah.
And most of them are garbage.
Yeah.
Because A, they don't know the kids, B, they're doing it because they feel they have to. So we get them all together.
Responsibilities, yes.
And then we take them to the salvos or we take them to people who we feel deserve them.
Nice,
The toy dryers or whatever. Yeah. We don't open them, they're there so other people can enjoy them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think the greatest gift that I give my children, and you may disagree, is myself.
Oh, yes.
The fact that we live and walk among them.
Oh, gee.
Is that not a sense of ever-present joy?
The fact that we give you to the audience here once every couple of months.
No, back at the audience. I'm talking about my kids.
Is a blessing. Your kids get to see you every day.
My parents are the same. My parents, I said, where's my present for Christmas? They said, present. You're looking at it. We put up with you. That is your present. So I've passed that down the ages.
Of course. Well, you know what?
My sister gets presents though, but that's because she's a good daughter and they actually love her. But that's not different kettle of fish.
Maybe because she's also not a smart ass. You've thought of that?
So it goes back to what we were talking about colonoscopic commiserations, mes enfants.
And we brought it all back, didn't we?
Intelligent colonoscopy or obtuse and not really that intellectually inclined colonoscopy. Either way, Pete's got you covered.
And with that, we've come to the end. You feeling cathartic?
No, absolutely not. I'm feeling all blocked up.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to say not even 5% of what I wanted to say about how I feel about you and your snide remarks. But I will wish you a Merry Christmas. I hope that
you too.
The Christmas spirit resides in you and teaches you some respect for your elders and betters.
I'll read the creed. Hopefully
and I hope that God will soften the heart of the Greek community boyars and send us an invite to their much coveted Christmas party.
Please.
And if not, everybody out there, Christmas is a period for being happy, being relaxed, focusing on the most important things in life, which is studying for hidden meanings the texts of the songs of Notis Fakianakis. Καλές γιορτές, χρόνια πολλά.
Χρόνια πολλά, καλές γιορτές.